Firearms manufacturers have been releasing some really good guns for concealed carry in the past several years. Model after model, each one promises to have several improvements over its previous iteration or offer better value than its direct competitors. Most claims do have merits, but what ends up happening is something I believe people in marketing refer to as cannibalization. Out of all those different versions, the best one gets all the sales, which naturally results in the others getting very few or zero sales. Market cannibalization is everywhere, from brand name clothes and shoes, to computers and cell phones, to cars, and to our favorite, guns. Indeed, when something good is pointless to buy, there's a good chance it's because there's an even better version of it being sold by the same company. In this video, I'll talk about what, in my opinion, are the top 5 carry guns that are pointless to buy. Just as a quick heads up, if you purchased any of these 5 models and you don't like that sinking feeling called buyer's remorse, feel free not to watch this video. With all that out of the way, let's begin. Number 5. Sig P365. When Sig Sauer released their model P365 in 2018, it started a whole new trend in concealed carry. Prior to its release, the leading contender was the Glock 43, which was released sometime in 2015. The Glock 43 was built differently compared to the other Glock models that preceded it because of its use of a single-stack magazine which allowed for a thinner grip profile. The Glock 43 was designed to have significantly less magazine capacity, but it also allowed for much easier concealment. Everyone was having a party with the Glock 43 until Sig Sauer introduced the party pooper, the Sig P365. Almost everyone who was happy with his or her Glock 43 immediately felt buyer's remorse. The Sig P365, like all Glock pistols, is a polymer-framed striker-fired handgun. The one thing it shares with the Glock 43 is its size. It is a micro-compact, which by definition is smaller than a compact and has a thinner grip than a subcompact. Because of their thinner grips, micro-compacts are much easier to conceal than traditional polymer-framed pistols that use high-capacity magazines which require thicker grips. But because micro-compacts have thinner grips, which don't leave a lot of room for ammo, the Glock 43 only had a 6-round capacity, and yet, for some reason, this limitation doesn't apply to the P365. The P365, being 46/100ths of an inch shorter than the Glock 43, holds 4 more rounds of 9mm in the mag, which started the trend of polymer-framed high-capacity micro-compacts. It was dethroned by the Springfield Hellcat in the following year as far as dimensions versus capacity, but there are still P365 fanboys out there who swear by the P365 and would have no problem arguing all day about how it's still a better buy compared to the Hellcat. That was a valid argument, but Sig released their P365 macro earlier this year, which holds 17 rounds of 9mm in the mag. That's an additional 7 rounds over the P365's 10-round mag capacity, which is simply astonishing, considering that its grip only measures 9/10ths of an inch longer and 4/100ths of an inch thicker than that of the Sig P365's. The only real downside to the P365X macro is its high price. The Sig P365 retails for $499, while the Sig P365X macro retails for $800. That's a $301 difference, which won't appeal to everyone. But if you consider all the P365X macro's design improvements over its forerunner, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to buy a P365 anymore. If you can't afford a P365X macro, just get a Hellcat. Number 4. Glock 48. In 2019, Glock introduced the Glock 48. Since it was released, it has garnered a pretty good measure of fame and popularity, even considering the fact that there's nothing exactly new about it. In a nutshell, it is essentially a Glock 19, but with a single-stack magazine, which, depending on how you look at it, makes some sense, very little sense, or like the P365 and all the other guns on this list, no sense at all. The Glock 48 was obviously designed to be an alternative to the Glock 19. It's a high-capacity micro-compact pistol, which means it's primarily built for concealed carry. Because of its thinner grip, if you have small or medium hands, it'll be easier to handle. With a fully loaded magazine, the weight savings compared to a Glock 19 is around 5 ounces, which also make it a bit lighter, and the slimmer slide and frame make the Glock 48 slightly easier to conceal than the Glock 19. Overall, it is more comfortable to carry and easier to conceal than similarly sized pistols. Like any other Glock, it is highly reliable and easy to maintain, and aftermarket parts are widely available. And because it's a Glock, there are lots of holster models available for it. So, why is it on this list? Well, it's because of the Glock 43X, which, depending on how you look at it, is a real kick in the Austrian gunmaker's nuts. It's because, to begin with, it was released with the Glock 48 in 2019. From the very beginning, the Glock 48 had no chance. Let me walk you through the numbers so we see eye to eye. Fully loaded, the Glock 43X is 2.05 ounces lighter than a fully loaded Glock 48. So, from a size to ammo capacity perspective, the Glock 43X has the Glock 48 beat. And they have the same exact MSRP of $500, so no issues there. As far as dimensions, they're somewhat similar. Both the Glock 43X and the Glock 48 have the same width of 1.1 inches and the same overall height of 5.04 inches. Because of the same grip size, both the Glock 43X and the Glock 48 have the same 10-round mag capacity, but where they differ greatly is in their overall lengths. The Glock 43X has an overall length of only 6.5 inches, 78/100ths of an inch shorter than the Glock 48's overall length of 7.28 inches. This is because the Glock 43X has a barrel length of 3.41 inches, 76/100ths of an inch shorter than the Glock 48's barrel that measures 4.17 inches. Since these guns were designed for concealed carry, not target shooting, the Glock 48's longer barrel is pointless. Number 3. Smith & Wesson M&P9 Shield, Easy. When Smith & Wesson released their M&P 380 Shield Easy sometime in 2018, the company received overwhelmingly positive feedback for two reasons. One, there weren't a lot of pistols designed from the ground up to have a slide that is easy to rack and a magazine that is easy to load for people with weak hands. And two, it lived up to its name, as the easy means easy to manipulate, because everything you need to do to the pistol can be done very easily compared to others. Pundits claim that the Walther CCP may be a viable alternative, but I've never personally shot one, so I can't verify that claim. Besides that, though, the only other pistol I'm aware of with a slide that is much easier to rack is any 1911, with its hammer cocked. From 2018, Smith & Wesson knew they were onto a winner with their M&P 380 Shield Easy, and would expand that line of pistols with models that incorporated the same features but chambered the more powerful and highly prevalent 9mm cartridge. They released their M&P 9 Shield Easy towards the end of 2019. And like its predecessor, it is also easy to rack, easy to clean, easy to load, and easy to shoot. To this day, it remains to be one of the most appealing options for two main categories of shooters. Newbies who prefer their first 9mm concealed carry handgun to have a manual safety and newbie-friendly features, and people who have weak hands or arthritis. But it has a downside: low ammo capacity. Fast forward to just November of 2022, Smith & Wesson released the Equalizer, a new version of the M&P 9 Shield Easy pistol from 2019. It addressed the only downside associated with its forerunner. Whereas the original M&P 9 Shield Easy has an 8-round factory mag, the Equalizer has 3 different factory mags: a 10-rounder, a 13-rounder, and a 15-rounder. Why is that a big deal? Because, even with the Equalizer's higher capacity mags, it has virtually the same overall height as the M&P 9 Shield Easy. With its 15-round mag, its overall height is only 0.2 of an inch longer, and with its 10-round mag, its overall height is 55/100ths of an inch shorter. Outside its overall height, the Equalizer measures the same as its predecessor, so the only other difference between the two is the price, which isn't too big of a difference either. The M&P 9 Shield Easy has an MSRP of $521, while the Equalizer retails for $599. This makes a perfect example of market cannibalization. It wouldn't take long before Smith & Wesson ceases production of the M&P 9 Shield Easy. Number 2. Ruger LCP2. The very first Ruger LCP was released well over a decade ago, sometime in 2018. It was noticeably better built than the Kel-Tec P380, which was its main competition at the time, and between the two, it was the better pocket carry pistol for when you can't use a holster or a belt to carry a heavier subcompact or micro-compact, like when you're jogging or working out in a gym. But it wasn't perfect. There were 3 areas where the original LCP needed improvement: the magazine capacity, the trigger, and the sights. Despite the initial success of the LCP, Ruger didn't rest on their laurels and continued to listen to their customers to improve it. They came up with an LCP Pro Edition in 2015, which came with some improvements, but it was a year later when they released the second generation called the LCP2. The LCP2 uses a single-action-only trigger which only has to release the hammer. Because of this, it features a crisp break, a shorter pull, and a shorter reset compared to the trigger for the LCP. The sights on the LCP2 are kind of identical to that on the first LCP, maybe just a tad bit more substantial. But the ammo capacity remained the same, 6 rounds of 380 ACP. Don't get me wrong, the LCP2 is better than the first LCP in every way, but it does leave something to be desired. In 2021, Ruger announced the LCP Max, a slightly bigger version of the LCP2 that can still be pocket carried and with the same single-action-only trigger. This time, though, Ruger added a tritium front sight with a thin white ring around it and U-notch rear sights with serrations for a better sight picture. And amazingly, they managed to fit 4 additional rounds in the mag, despite the LCP Max being only 41/100ths of an inch taller than the LCP2. And lastly, their prices aren't too different. The LCP2 has an MSRP of $419, while the LCP Max has an MSRP of $469. There's just no practical reason to buy a Ruger LCP2 because for $50 more, you get a greatly improved version in the LCP Max. Number 1. Taurus GX4. And lastly, we get to my top pick, the absolute worst when it comes to guns that don't make sense to buy. It's the Taurus GX4, which, if you only read reviews on firearms blog sites, you'd think is a better deal compared to its forerunners, the G3C or even the G3X. Taurus is at it again when it comes to releasing junk pistol models. I've been rooting for this model since it was released in May of 2021. I thought it was going to be the next best thing since the G3C. The GX4 is touted to have a greatly improved trigger compared to its predecessors, and maybe it did improve a bit, but reports of trigger reset issues are making the rounds online. Some GX4 triggers evidently fail to reset when rightward pressure is applied to them. Some pundits believe the problem is with the GX4's design. It uses a really tiny sear that isn't firmly seated in the polymer frame. I'm no gun engineer, so I would invite you to do further research on the subject before you even think of buying a Taurus GX4. Better yet, just buy a G3C. It has a slightly wider frame which makes it more robust than the GX4. It also has a shorter barrel, shorter overall length, and a relatively taller overall height, but you do get 3 12-round mags out of the box. Yes, you heard it right, 3 12-round mags. And to add insult to injury, the G3C is also significantly more affordable, as the GX4 has an MSRP of $429, while the G3C only retails for $339.65. If the extra mag, the lower MSRP, and the proven reliability of the G3C doesn't win you over, and you still want to buy a GX4, don't say I didn't warn you. And that's all I have for you in this video. If you believe other carry guns should have made it to this list, let me know by commenting down below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and click on that little bell icon so you don't miss out on any new content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.